and welcome to the FanDuel Punch-Out. I'm Big Italy 42 here talking about tonight's 15-game slate. And there are a lot of pitchers to consider here, so get ready, strap in for things here. Zach Greinke, most expensive pitcher, $12,400, facing a Washington team that's nearly healthy now. Got Jason Worth, Ryan Zimmerman, Anthony Rendon all back. Now really only missing Denard Span, but he's a good bat, not a big bat. I'm not saying I'm not going to be playing Greinke, just saying I probably won't be paying up for him in cash games because it's no longer a pushover team there for Washington. And it has nothing to do with the fact that he struggled early against Philly, turned that around, ended up being fine. But I just think I prefer other options better. Like Madison Bumgarner against Houston. Got to think he's got a really nice strikeout floor here. He's got wins in 4 of his last 6 games. He's $11,900. And, this is a Houston team that strikes out a ton. They do have a lot of power also, but fortunately for him, this is at home. Madison Bumgarner, we know, a great home pitcher, so he's a great option. But your biggest favorite on the day, Matt Harvey, minus 220 favorite. 5 straight games where he's pitched at least 7 innings. 3 of those 5 with 6 or more strikeouts, 1 with 9, actually. $11,200 seems like he's the safest bet for the win. You're obviously a little bit concerned about Carlos Gonzalez, but really no one else stands out in that Colorado lineup that is terrible on the road. So I like him a great deal. Other options I'm looking at, Carlos Carrasco I think is going to be a nice GPP option at $9,800. Not sure I quite trust him in cash games, but against the Yankees, I just don't like to target the Yankees. But this is a guy who has back-to-back complete games, 3 total hits, 2 walks, 14 Ks against Oakland and the Angels. So, this is a guy that is in a really good spot tonight. At $9,800, I think he's going to go lower owned with these other great options on the mound. So he's a great GPP target. Taylor Youngman, a guy that, due to his rising price tag, may have higher ownership than he should. Lower ownership than he should. It's not to say that I'm expecting huge things out of him, but this is a guy who's pitched very well at times. I mean, he had a complete game against the Dodgers with 7 Ks. He's pitched 7 or more innings in 4 of his last 6 starts. Double-digit FanDuel points in 8 of his last 10. So this is a guy against the Cubs, strike out more than any other team against right-handed pitching. He's in a fine spot tonight, so I'm playing him in some tournaments. Joe Ross, not a great spot for him against the Dodgers. Best team in baseball against right-handed pitching, but the guy's been phenomenal since coming up. Walked just 3 batters over his last 5 starts. He's got at least 6 innings in each one. Has only allowed either 4, 5, or 6 hits in each one. 6, 7, or 11 Ks in 4 of those 5. So this is a very good young pitcher. I'm not terribly concerned about the Dodgers offense putting up a big number on him. Just not sure that I want to target him a lot with Zach Greinke opposing him because I don't think he'll get much run support. Luis Severino, a guy that I do like, $7,000. Making a second career start, was great in his first one. 7 Ks over 5 innings, just 2 hits. One of those a home run to David Ortiz, but that'll happen. You make one mistake to David Ortiz. And I think he's in a fine spot today. You don't know how he's looking for a win. Obviously, he's an underdog to Carlos Carrasco here, but I do think he's got some nice upside. You don't expect he's going to pitch deep, though, so you're looking for strikeouts early. Other guys, Chris Tillman kind of catches my eye at $6,700, the guy that was awful at the beginning of the season, but finally starting to look like the Chris Tillman we saw last year. Nearly a complete game last time out, 8 2/3 against Atlanta. Missed his last couple starts with an ankle injury, but this is a guy who has allowed only 5 earned runs in his last 6 starts. So, he has pitched 41 innings over those starts. His last, 6 starts. And 3 wins during that time. And he's 30-6 strikeout to walk ratio throughout that time. So, he's a guy that I definitely like quite a bit tonight in GPP. Seattle has been a hot offense, but I think that's just going to further depress his ownership. So, for those reasons, I'm looking at him. No one else in these cheap guys really looks great to me, but one guy who's pitching very well, knuckleballer Stephen Wright. Over his last 2 games against White Sox and the Yankees, 15 innings, 10 hits, 4 walks, 17 strikeouts, got the win in both of them. 1 earned run against the Yankees, 2 earned runs against the White Sox, so $6,400 against a bad Miami offense. I don't think he's a bad tournament option there either. Moving over to catcher, there's a lot of guys you like. Kyle Schwarber just continues to destroy the ball. If you're not playing Taylor Youngman, then you're certainly trying to get some exposure to Schwarber at $4,000. It's expensive, but may very well be worth it. Wellington Castillo, though, my favorite of the expensive options. Gets David Buchanan. I've been talking about this guy seemingly every day for a week. He's got 5 home runs in his last 10 games. Had a triple last night. Should have been a double, but it was a triple. 4 RBIs. This is a guy who's got a ton of power. And Chase Field, once again, that's one of the higher totals of the night. Other options for you, Russell Martin at 3K against Kendall Graveman at home at the Rogers Center. You have to love that. And then if you're going down cheaper, John Jaso, probably going to be a pretty chalky cash game play, and rightfully so, $2,600, facing off against Williams Perez, who allows a 378 WOBA to lefties. Love him. And then my last guy's going to be Jonathan Lucroy at $2,500, facing off against my favorite pitcher, Dan Herron, in his Wrigley Field debut, I should say. Well, as a Cub, at least. First base options, my favorite price considered is going to be Albert Pujols at $3,400 against Carlos Rodon. He's just way too cheap. Hasn't been great recently, but he's been getting on base, been consistent, which makes him a good cash game option. Certainly has big upside in U.S. Cellular tonight. You got to love Paul Goldschmidt. Finally priced appropriately, $4,600 against David Buchanan. I mean, he's a consistent player, got a ton of upside as well. So if you can afford him, get him. Certainly don't mind Chris Davis either. He just continues to crush the ball. Another homer last night. Now 5 in his last 8 games. Gets Taijuan Walker, who's actually been very good recently. But I still like Chris Davis as a GPP play. My favorite GPP play is Lucas Duda. Facing off against lefty Chris Rusin. And Lucas Duda is hitting almost 100 points higher at home and also has better splits ISO and WOBA against lefties and lefty-lefty matchup. For those reasons, I think a lot of people should be on him, and I don't think a lot will. People tend to shy away from lefty-lefty matchups, but Lucas Duda seemingly does this every year. Struggles early and crushes the ball in the second half, so I love him tonight in tournaments. Ryan Howard wanted to play him last night. Couldn't. He wasn't in the lineup. Got to imagine he'll be back. Gets Jeremy Hellickson today, who is generous against lefties and righties. Got to like him. Adam Lind at $3,400. If you don't like Pujols, he's another great option for you. And then Edwin Encarnacion, $4,800. Obviously, GPP play at that price. But even if he is in the lineup, we might still see Justin Smoke. And at $2,800, give Justin Smoke and his big-time power a look as well. One more guy to mention, Pedro Alvarez, $2,500. Hasn't been in great form recently, but Carlos Martinez does struggle with left-handed batters. So if you want to chase some power, I don't think that's a bad option for cheap in your tournaments. Second base options, I'll be paying down in cash games. I like Scooter Gennett at $2,200, Chase Utley at $2,400. Those will probably be the guys I'm looking at in cash. But as far as GPP options, Robbie Cano has great numbers against Chris Tillman. I believe he's 12 for 29. You're looking his way. Ian Kinsler has just been raking against everyone. And I'm not a big believer in Yordan Ventura, so I think that he is in a great spot at $4,100 if you've got the money to spend. Brian Dozier, criminally underpriced in the righty-righty against Giovanni Gallardo. Another guy who hasn't been great recently, but a ton of power for a middle infielder, so that always gives you an edge in tournaments. Other guys you can look at, D. Gordon against the knuckleballer and right. If he gets on, you assume he's going to be running. Hasn't been on a whole lot recently. Only one stolen base, actually, in his last 10 games. So you don't like that, but you do like that he does have that upside. Jonathan Scope, another guy. Righty-righty matchup against Taijuan Walker. Not a great matchup, but at $2,600, I don't think that he is a bad option either. Third base options, Josh Donaldson. If you can get him, get him. He's your top option. This guy seemingly homers every night. He's got 6 homers in his last 9 games. He's insanely expensive, though, so going to be really tough to fit him in. Jacob Lamb going to be your chalk cash game play again at $2,500, assuming that he's not only in the lineup, but in the top half of the lineup. One guy, I was on him last night, didn't pan out, but he's a much better hitter than what he's shown since the All-Star break. Todd Frazier, $2,900, facing off against a pitcher, does not strike out many batters, so you got to like him. Another one of my guys that I like, kind of a swerve play, Gabriel Solarte. Switch hitter, going to face off against Michael Lorenzen and his .437 WOBA allowed to lefties. So I think he's in a good spot. Miguel Sano, also at $2,800, is another guy to consider. If you're paying up a little bit, Danny Valencia, $3,200. He's the guy you usually target against lefties, but since he's come over to Oakland, and this guy's been crushing the ball. Last 4 games, 2 hits with a homer, 2 hits with a double, 2 hits with a homer, 1 hit with a double. And the guy has been just raking. I imagine he'll probably be in the lineup again. He batted cleanup yesterday. And working in his favor is Drew Hutchison's significant reverse splits of 380 WOBA allowed against righties. Gotta like him once again today. And then one guy who's struggling for a little while, finally starting to get it going again, Chris Bryant, $3,300. If you are not playing Taylor Youngman, I like Chris Bryant. A good deal as well. Shortstop, I'll start with your chalk cash game play, Johnny Peralta, as he has many nights, especially when he's this cheap. $2,600 against the lefty and Jeff Locke. You don't worry about your current form with Peralta, who's struggled for a few games. He's been the most consistent performer at shortstop all season, and don't imagine much will change today. Another guy I really like in tournaments, Carlos Correa, $4,500. He's destroying left-handed pitching. Obviously, Bumgarner, not only one of the better pitchers on tonight's slate, but one of the better pitchers in all of baseball. So I'm not targeting him with many batters, but Correa, one of those guys I'm considering playing against him, especially in tournaments. It certainly won't be a cash game play, but you got to love that. Tulowitzki leading off against Kendall Graveman, who isn't a guy that I'm trying to necessarily stack against in cash games. He's not a bad pitcher, but he is a contact pitcher, which is not good against the Blue Jays' best offensive baseball in the Rogers Center. Another guy I really like in tournaments is Asdrubal Cabrera at $3,400. Switch hitter against Williams Perez. Mentioned his struggles with lefties. Asdrubal Cabrera batting .465 over his last 11 games. Xander Bogaerts, another guy at $3,300. I'm considering in the matchup with Justin Nicolino. He hits lefties very well. Not much power upside, but very good hitter. Nice lineup spot for him. And then, of course, if you're going cheap, Alcides Escobar at $2,300 is kind of your chalk play there. Mike Trout continues to be way underpriced, $4,700. He gets Carlos Rodon tonight. Not a bad idea to pair him with Albert Pujols. Only $8,100 to pair those two. Two teammates with the most combined home runs than anyone in baseball, around $8,000. Sign me up for that in GPPs. And I think Trout, if you can fit him, he's a fine cash game option. I don't think he's necessary by any means. Jose Bautista, $5,100, going to be a popular play here. He's got homers in 3 of his last 5 games. The guy's always going to give you good at-bats. He walks a great deal, almost 20% of the time. Got to like him. Your other options, Carlos Gonzalez. I love him in tournaments tonight. The guy has just continued to hit a ton of home runs. He's got 5 in his last 5 games. Matt Harvey has allowed 13 home runs to left-handed hitters this year, so Carlos Gonzalez certainly in play for me in GPPs. Same goes for Ryan Braun against Dan Herron and his 1.54 home runs per 9. Braun hasn't homered in any of his last 9 games, but if there's ever a scenario to homer, it's against a fly ball pitcher at Wrigley Field. You got to like that. AJ Pollock, David Peralta, take your pick. I prefer Pollock slightly because he's a better all-around player, a little bit more power. He steals a lot more bases. He got 26 stolen bases on the year. Don't think you can go wrong with either guy, though. JD Martinez, of course, righty-righty against Yordano Ventura. This guy's just quietly mashing the ball, 30 home runs, so he just continues to kill the ball now. Ben Zobrist has been moved to the outfield on FanDuel. I think he's a fine play for that reason alone. I mean, I like the matchup anyway against Anibal Sanchez, but he's been a very consistent hitter. 3 hits again last night. Got to like him. Let's scroll down a little bit before you find many more guys you like. You can look at Gardner and Ellsbury at $3,200. You don't like the matchup against Carrasco, though. GPP options for me. A couple Philly lefties right around $3K. Odubel Herrera at $32 and Don Brown at $32 or at $3,000. Like both those guys. I like Rusney Castillo at $29. Should be batting first or second against Nicolino tonight. And then Chris Davis, baby crush against Dan Herron. Has 2 double-dong games in his last 4, $3,100. Really like his upside tonight. And then you don't like to look at these prices, but Starling Marte is now the same price as Gregory Polanco. Like, how the mighty have fallen here. And Marte still hasn't been bad. Carlos Martinez is actually very good against righties. But I think a good swerve in tournaments here is you will see some people on Polanco because he's had success against Martinez. We know Martinez struggles with lefties. Starling Marte is way too good of a hitter to be $3,000 tonight, so I will certainly be targeting him in my GPPs as well. As you're looking for cheaper guys, Billy Burns at $2,800 is a solid option there, and hitting in the Rogers Center. Jason Worth, too expensive now, and he gets Zach Greinke, so I'm not traveling that route. But what I will be looking at is 2 guys at $2,700 for upside, Franklin Gutierrez and Abraham Almonte. Both guys mashing the ball. Each guy has homered each of the last 2 starts. If either of those guys are in the lineup tonight, I'm looking at them in tournaments for some big-time power upside. And then as you're looking for really cheap guys, I don't think they're completely necessary because you should have money. But Grady Sizemore should be batting second, $2,600. I like him. One of my favorite players. Not sure if he's even going to be in the lineup, though. Kevin Kiermaier has a sore and swollen thumb. If he returns to the lineup today, he's min salary. I like him a good deal. I assume if he's in the lineup, he'll be plenty good to go, so you definitely look that way. And if you're chasing some stolen base upside, Billy Hamilton, $2,500 against the Padres. Gotta like that. You assume that Yosmani Tomas may sit for Ender Inciarte today, but if he doesn't, homered last night at $2,400. Not a bad option for your tournaments. And that's going to wrap things up. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. and check out all of our great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.